All right, everybody, good late morning. Hope you guys are doing well today. And got more edge rushers to look at. We're going to set our sights just a little bit lower, going to bring things down just a little bit. And we're going to look at some guys who are still really good, still really valuable. Still, I'd call them upper echelon starters in this league, guys that you get and you expect a positive impact from them, but they're not complete game wreckers. They're not people that you can count on to have 15 plus sacks a year. They're not somebody that you should be looking to pay more than 20 million a year. There's area in the middle there, and that's where these guys fit in. So, little bit more cost effective, of course. I will say that the Seahawks already have kind of an overabundance of edge rushers in this area. Like, we already have Uchenna Nwosu. That's kind of where we are with these players, right? Uchenna Nwosu is a really good, but he's not quite elite. These guys, similarly, they're really good. Occasionally they look great, but they're not elite. So, do you want to add another guy like that? Knowing that Boye Mafe is very likely going to end up landing somewhere in that tier, and Derek Hall could very easily as well. You want to just try to have an edge room with 4 really good players and no killer? Maybe that could work. Give everybody equal snaps, pace everybody. Maybe you're cooking then. But don't expect to get an absolute game wrecker out of this tier. So just know what you're getting into. So let's take a look at some guys here. First guy is going to be Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat of the Philadelphia Eagles, about to turn 28. Super Bowl champion Josh Sweat, of course. And he was really quiet to start his NFL career. Burst onto the scene these last 4 years, though. Made the Pro Bowl in 2021. Had 11 sacks for the Eagles team that went to the Super Bowl and lost to Kansas City. And the last 2 years, he's still been a really good player. He's not a Khalil Mack type. He's not somebody who's going to ever compete for Defensive Player of the Year, but he's really good. He can play, and he is definitely worthy of being an upper level starter in this league. PFF was high on him last year. They ranked him not quite elite, but very, very good. 75.7 on 622 snaps. Year before that, not quite as good, but still good. 68.3 is okay. 828 snaps. Maybe he played too many snaps, and maybe scaling back a little bit last year was good for him. Now, it is fair to point out the company that he surrounds himself with. And what I mean by that is just how good that Eagles defense is. He's playing with Jalen Carter. He's playing with Zach Bond. He's playing with Nolan Smith. He's playing with some real monsters on that front. So I said this about God, who was that? Milton Williams a day or two ago, and I say it of Josh Sweat now. He's not exactly the guy that you're most afraid of at any given time when you're playing the Eagles on offense. You're worried about Jalen Carter. You're worried maybe more about a guy like Zach Bond. Maybe you're more worried about somebody like a Nolan Smith. It depends on your perspective on this. And also, there is probably going to be a little bit of a premium you have to pay here because he almost won Super Bowl MVP. He had a great game in the Super Bowl. Botrack thinks he's going to brush close to 20 million. They have 3 years, 56.5 million. That's $18.8 million. I mean, you get him for the duration of his prime, and he'll be worth that money compared to the rest of the market. But he's not a superstar. He's not somebody who's going to go out there and play like a TJ Watt or play like a Micah Parsons. He's very good. Occasionally looks great, but there's not an elite player here. There's not some guy who's going to live on the all-pro team here. So are you willing to spend almost 19 million a year on that, knowing that that is an appropriate going rate for players like this that play on the edge? Chase Young, next guy we got to take a look at here. Chase Young. I think we all know quite a bit about Chase Young. He number 2 overall pick, college superstar, and by some definition, He's been kind of a disappointment, and by another definition, he's been adequate. He's been pretty good. Got 2 seasons of 7.5 sacks. He almost won a Super Bowl in 2023. He did make the Pro Bowl as a rookie, but honestly, as far as Washington is concerned, the guy's a bust. The guy had a great rookie year and then didn't really do all that much. And last year in New Orleans, he did kind of rebuild his reputation, but look at what they're asking him to do. He didn't start a single game last year. 5.5 sacks on limited snaps. That's not really going to get anybody to think, oh, this guy's figured it out now. No. You're betting on him bouncing back from his injury and getting all the way back to what he was in college. Because he did suffer a major injury a couple years ago, and I guess it's believable that he could get back to form, but we don't know. Like last year, he did play a good number of snaps, don't get me wrong, 740 snaps, but he didn't put up big numbers. Like the sack numbers are one thing, but 31 tackles for what is supposed to be a superstar edge or a borderline superstar edge, not really what you're looking for. 34 pressures is good, but there are players out there that get double this. So you're going to have to bet pretty heavily on Chase Young becoming something that he simply wasn't in 2024 or 2023 or really any year since his rookie season in 2020. PFF is relatively complimentary of him. I will say that 66.4 this last year. Year before that, 74.4. I mean, that's pretty good, right? 735 snaps in 2023, by the way. So he plays a good amount, but there's probably a premium you have to pay here because Chase Young was a college star. $17.5 million a year. That's 4 years, $70.2 million. That's a lot of money for a guy who you don't even really know, right? I know last year was kind of the prove it year for him, and by some definition he proved it, but at the same time I kind of feel like he proved that he's just a good starter at this point, or a good guy who can absorb 40 snaps a game and you feel pretty good about it. But 4 years, $17.5 million for kind of a wing and a prayer that he's going to regain his 2020 form when that was so long ago. He is going to turn 26 this offseason, so his prime should be approaching, but is that argument neutered a little bit by the fact that he suffered such a big injury a couple years ago? Maybe. Okay, so that's Chase Young. That one's dicey. That one's tricky to me. Not super into that. Dayo Odeyingbo. Dayo Odeyingbo of the Indianapolis Colts. Definitely a bigger guy, a bigger edge, which that might actually be what Mike McDonald wants. He might want a big edge. Somebody who can kind of occupy that Jadeveon Clowney role that he had in Baltimore. Started 14 games last year. Didn't really have the big breakout year that he was necessarily hoping for, but the previous year, as a guy coming off the bench, he had 8 sacks. So he's still going to get paid. And he still certainly added value in 2024, right? He had similar pressure numbers in 2023 and 2024. So that tells you there was a little bit of bad luck going on there. If we may be honest about such things. So not a superstar, but is not turning 26 until late September. So there is upside here for him to go beyond what we've seen so far. And what he is right now is very good. PFF, little lukewarm on him, but 66.1 is okay. 750 snaps or so, approximately. Year before that, that was the year he had the 8 sacks. They didn't like him very much at all. They thought his run defense was coming at the... Well, they thought his pass rush was coming at the expense of run defense. And it was a decent number of snaps, too. So, yeah, I think we have a decent idea of what he is right now, but this is definitely someone who could have upside. This is not a Josh Sweat situation where I feel like we know exactly what he is. Odeyingbo, or excuse me, did I get that right? Yeah, Odeyingbo could go beyond this, especially in a better system, a better defense. He's been playing on the Colts these last 4 years. Not a ton of talent surrounding him there. All right. So with that being said, the Spotrac estimate is 16 million a year, 4 years, 63.9 million. Basically call it 64 million. 16 mil per. I know. You look at this and you're like, how is this gonna cost me 16 mil a year for 4 years? But that's the way this world works right now, man. That's the way this goes. So I don't know. If McDonald likes the idea of getting a big edge and he feels like Odeyingbo is what he's looking for there, like he can be what Clowney was for him 2 years ago in Baltimore, maybe I could do that. But of this group, Josh Sweat is definitely my favorite. He's still relatively young, and he is actually a little oversized for an edge. He is definitely bigger than a guy like Mafe, but you know what you're getting while also knowing there is a pretty good chance he's going to maintain his level of play for the next 3-4 years. But let me know what you guys think. We'll talk about more edge rushers later today. Let me know what you guys are feeling. I know it's pricey, but this is what edge rushers cost, even just the ones that are good or very good. Elite need not be achieved in order to get these big contracts of more than 15 mil a year. All right. Everyone have a good day. See you guys in a couple hours with more videos. Go Hawks.